welcome everybody to the CMX Global Connect AMA. Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. I'm Beth McIntyre. I'm the head of community at CMX. I'm here with the lovely Anne-Marie Pawlicki Dinkel, who is our event manager at CMX. And we're really excited to answer your questions. This was a cool, exciting event for us, CMX Global. And I think today is a really exciting day because we want to walk you through kind of everything that we went through planning this, the questions that came up, the challenges we faced, the learnings that we had. This was a crazy experience for both of us, so we're excited to share. Right, Anne-Marie?
Yes, very much so. Thank you everyone for joining. We are super pumped for this AMA. So we're going to start off with a quick little presentation about what we did, how we got there, kind of the steps we took, the tools that we used, and how we just brainstormed and planned everything. And then we'll go into the questions. So let's begin.
Perfect. And when you do have a question, go ahead and post it in the chat. You can tag, oh, Laura's having an echo. I don't know if that's just you. I don't have an echo, but hopefully we can sort that out. When you do have a question, go ahead and post it in the chat box, and we will try to get to all of them at the end.
All right. Sorry, I needed a sip of water. What the whistle. So here is a little snapshot of one of my favorite pieces of the event. We hired Snap Fiesta and worked with Jean, who was able to create a photo wall mosaic for us. And this is what it looked like. We hashtagged CMX Global Connect. It pulled all of the pictures, built it into this beautiful mosaic, and we were really able to kind of use that as an extra push for the event. One thing that I will say that in regards to creating like our background in our event brief, I'll just read what our mission was for this. CMX Global Connect is a virtual conference that is a collaborative project put on by the Connect host and superstars for the community industry. CMX is using this opportunity to band together with our community to educate and connect them with a particular focus on how to build community during this time. We are here to remind people that no matter what is happening in the world, community is still the future. This virtual event will include presentations, facilitate discussions, workshops, networking opportunities, and other virtual activities. We will build around the infrastructure of CMX Connect, but on a global scale. And that's really what we did here. And that's what whenever we felt stuck or had any problems, we always went back to that statement to make sure that we were in line with what we were doing and the direction of the event.
Cool. So we figured we would share some numbers as well, because for a lot of you, the numbers are kind of the most important part. So we put CMX Global together in about 5 weeks. We have like text message proof when Anne-Marie and I started talking about the name, and it was just at the end of March. So it was a really tight turnaround. We had actually 2,879 RSVPs and 2,100 people attended, which is a huge turnout rate for an event. And it was really exciting. When we were combing through some of the data, we found that there were 84 countries represented in the audience. This is so cool. I feel like that sort of representation often doesn't happen in in-person events, and I could be wrong, but that's just how I feel. I think that by having this virtual conference, we were able to have so many more people in attendance, and it was really cool to see some of the countries that were tuning in. We had 29 speakers on 4 stages, and we had an incredible team of 27 volunteers who were helping with emceeing, stage managing, IT help, chat moderation, you name it. We had people running it in the background, and it was really them who made this event possible, as it always is with volunteers.
Definitely.
So the next thing is kind of what Anne-Marie talked about. Before the event, one of the first things we did was we created an event brief. So this really gave us the idea of like what our mission was, what the purpose of this event is, why are we doing this, who is this for? We wanted to make sure that we knew exactly what we were doing before everything started. We also have go ahead, Anne-Marie.
Yes, exactly. So like I said, I read the brief to you guys in our statement to go back to that. The next thing that we did was we expanded on the planning timeline, the event agenda, and the script. When having a virtual event, I recognized early on and was kind of coached through that a script is one of the most important parts of your virtual event. So with the purpose of the event and your goals in mind, now you're ready, and now when you know who your intended audience is, you're ready to start focusing on topics, speakers, who do you want to speak, and what will they talk about? Personally, for CMX Global Connect, we really wanted our CMX Connect hosts to get involved. So we had them pitch speakers and session ideas. We were able to get a ton of them on stage involved with volunteering. We also invited longstanding members of CMX community speak and looked at a lot of the stories circulating around COVID-19 and the industry. After you have all that set, then you need to select your platform. Once you've got all the pieces that you know you want, then you need to figure out what is going to be the best platform or the best virtual event venue, if you'd call it, for yourself. So for CMX Global Connect, we used Bevy for the event creation, the landing page, the RSVP collection, email marketing, you name it, that is what we used. And then for the actual event, we used Hoppin as our virtual event platform. Where people attended the event, were able to just roam around within that. We selected Hoppin as our virtual platform because when we were looking at our must-have versus our nice-to-have, we wanted to make sure that we had a platform that was a one-stop shop and used only one link to access every part of the event. Other key things that we needed the ability to have multiple stages. We needed networking built in. We needed a place for our sponsors to host, to have booths and host live within their booth situations. We needed attendees to be able to chat with each other, and we needed sessions to be automatically recorded. Then after that, you can start thinking about your logistics and roles. For an in-person event, you know that you need venue space, lights, check-ins, like the list goes on. But when you host a virtual conference, it feels like there should be a lot less than that. That is absolutely not the case, and we will tell you that. You need to figure out, will you be hiring professionals? Will you be filling in-house? Like, are you using volunteers? Some of these roles we found to be non-negotiable. And after I had a conversation with Sarah Sweeney from Happily, I recognized that two of them I didn't even know existed. You need an overall event manager, MCs, one per stage, a speaker manager to check in your speakers, tech support who lives off your platform, who it just kind of sits in HQ. This was done on Slack through us, chat box moderators. Honestly, the more, the merrier. They flag IT, they make sure everyone is participating and engaged and that everyone follows the code of conduct. The list for chat box moderators goes on. And finally, event prep and production. A lot goes into this, but one of the biggest things that we did was host rehearsals for all of our speakers and our presenters, volunteers, MCs. We did that a bit because we were rushed. We did that a bit on the later end of things. So next time, definitely make sure they have more than 24 hours before they get familiar with the platform. And then you'll be good to go.
So during the event, it was really important we set ourselves up for success as much as we could before the actual showtime. We gave speakers, sponsors, volunteers, everybody access to a test event we created so they could play around and practice for 2 days before the event. Like Anne-Marie said, it feels like there would be less logistics, but because we have that technical aspect of it, it can make people feel a little bit more nervous. So we scheduled dress rehearsals. We wrote speaker guides, volunteer guides, sponsor guides with step-by-step instructions for everything people needed to know about the platform, how to get into the back, how to figure out streaming videos, sharing screens, everything. Sometimes we felt like the table of contents because people would ask us questions. We would just point them in the direction of all the answers. But it was well worth it because when showtime came, we really didn't have that many technical difficulties or hiccups from the speaker, sponsor, volunteer side of things. The other important thing is to know who to go to if there is a problem. Like Anne-Marie said, we did have some tech support set up. We had a speaker manager. That way, you know, if someone was missing, if someone didn't show up, if someone was having audio issues or something like that, we knew who to go to. Like Anne-Marie said, they were off Hoppin, so that if something happened with the platform, we could still have access to this person. And we were supposed to have tech support from Hoppin on the day, but due to unforeseen circumstances, we had to find our own. And thankfully, that person had some experience using Hoppin. So he posted up in Slack, and it was awesome to have him there. The other thing is to have a personal show flow. So for those of you who attended, you'll know that I emceed the main stage, and I wrote a script. I had my play-by-play written here, my T here, my mic here. I had a list for myself that was like, Beth, at 9:55, go to this link, do this, say this. When you're in the middle of an event, there's like, I feel like your brain kind of shuts off and you're running on adrenaline. So it really helps to set yourself up with all of your step-by-steps and play-by-plays before the actual event time, just so that you don't miss anything.
And to kind of elaborate on that, I don't know if anyone saw my first poll that I posted, but I had a spelling error, grammar use error, and that's why we put that in there. Make sure you have everything laid out to the best of your ability beforehand. I was talking to 2 volunteers. It was my mistake, but you know, lesson learned.
And she's still losing sleep about it. So after the event, so we, huge learning, keep track of everything. We had a humongous, very beautiful master document with everything in it. Names, emails, times, content, images, logos, everything. We also each had documents full of notes, feedback for ourselves, feedback for each other, feedback for Hoppin. It was super important to write those thoughts down as they come up so that when things are finished and time rushes by, you don't forget any of those things. Past you is future you's best resource to learn how to do this next time. So make sure that you're, again, setting yourself up for success. The other thing, and this is a, very kind of personal one, schedule all of your communication in advance. So I always laugh at myself because I never learn. Leading up to an event, I always think, oh, I can't wait for the relaxing day on the Wednesday, the day after. And then Wednesday comes around and I have so much post-event stuff to do. You know, after an event, your brain is exhausted, all of your adrenaline is gone, you're tired. So the less you give yourself to do the day after an event, the better. So scheduling those emails, scheduling surveys to go out, all of those sorts of things before the event is going to help you out a lot. And know your plan. Will you share recordings? How will you share recordings? Do the speakers share their slides? How will that happen? In our case, we know that recordings are important. Our community loves recordings. So that was a must-have when we were deciding our platform. In this case, we knew Hoppin allowed recordings and automatically recorded each session, but we didn't ask any more detail than that. So it actually turns out at this time, the platform records videos in 8 to 12-minute intervals, and the files are all separate. So there is a huge amount of post-production work that goes into the recordings and releasing them than we actually realized in the beginning. And so this is one of those moments where, had we spent a little more time in the beginning, maybe, planning and scheduling the post-event stuff, it might have been a little bit easier. So again, I'll say it once, I'll say it again, just set yourself up for success.
So other learnings, and these were what we thought were key after throwing the event. First and foremost, become a Jedi master of your event tools. Not just saying that because yesterday was May the 4th be with you, but because it's the truth. I was expected to educate others on a platform that I was using for the first time. How can I educate people when I myself didn't really understand what the first step was? So all I have to say here is learn everything about the features, the quirks, and the bugs your virtual event platform has to offer. Become a master of it. You will not be able to clearly explain anything until you yourself have a clear understanding. Take the time to do the demo, do another demo, do a third demo, ask questions, read help articles, run mock events, the list goes on. Once you educate yourself, then you can educate others. And finally, like, be honest. If you don't know the answer to a question, just say, I don't know. Let's find out. Outline responsibilities. As mentioned above, your team needs to be clear on their day of role and responsibilities. Think strategically about how you will utilize everyone and give them everything they need in order to succeed. Do they ever run a show? Do you have any scripted lines that you as an organizer want them to say or repeat to attendees? Make sure that they are set up for success and trust them. You must trust your team. Just like in-person events, you have to relinquish control and allow them to do their jobs. And especially it's more difficult in virtual events because you can't just say, hey, meet me at the reception, like, let's have a powwow in 5 minutes. You need to go through a lot more hoops to actually get to them. Team involvement. There's no bigger advocate for your company and brand than its employees. Not only do you need to get them excited about what you're creating, you need to make sure you have them on the same bandwagon. Like, host internal educational meetings to go through the event with them, provide them with usable templates on HQ calls. Be sure that you give weekly updates on what you're doing, meet with the teams, be diligent in your follow-up, and remember to just keep them excited. If they're excited, it'll be top of mind when they're communicating externally, and that is just like where you really want their heads to be. Another thing that I found super valuable was use the experience of others to guide your journey. So earlier I spoke about Sarah Shuey at Happily. This is where I kind of dive a bit deeper into that. I spoke to her the late Wednesday afternoon before the event. We kind of went through roles. She told me what I was missing. Our conversation was literally mind-blowing. She told me I needed a speaker manager and we needed to have IT, like the list goes on. So at this point, like Beth mentioned, our IT from the platform fell through. So I talked to Beth. I said, hey, look, this is what's happening. Later that night, I redid the entire speaker communication, rewrote their whole show day flow. And then the following day, we did rehearsals with them all going to a green room, checking in with our speaker manager, Ashley. And it was totally worth it. It was a lot of stress on my end to change everything and communicate that like back. But basically the moral story is listen to everyone who's done this before you, use their experience to really guide you. Sarah at Happily was 100% on our side, and she helped this event really like make it the success that it was. And finally, just like Beth touched on, keep track and wrap up. Keep track of everything, every step of the way, what worked, what didn't, must-haves for next time. And just make sure you take the time to do this for yourself too, and just reflect and be proud.
And just to add on to that, Anne-Marie, I feel like at the end of the event, like the beauty of a virtual event is that, you know, our DJ finished, the mixology class was done, calligraphy 101 was over, and, you know, everybody cleared out. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to take a little break. And Anne-Marie and I jumped on a Zoom call to chat, like, you know, share our excitement. And it was kind of nice to be able to say, okay, virtual event done, which doesn't necessarily happen with an in-person event. So When we go back to the background in the brief, the one that Anne-Marie read at the beginning, our original mission, the why is this important statement, we had one ultimate goal, and that was to give something to our community. We wanted to give you resources, content, learning, and we also wanted to give our community a space of their own to come together to kind of escape the world for a moment, to meet others like them, who are going through the same things as them, to make people, to remind you that you're not alone. And when we look through the post-event survey responses, I read them diligently every single day when new ones come in. These are a few quotes that really stood out, and I'd like to read them. CMX Global Connect was inspiring, insightful, inspiring, and unifying. Being among so many passionate community professionals made me realize that I'm not alone out there. Most importantly, it further reinforced that this is a legitimate career path and made me proud of the work that I do. This was a really great experience, and it gave me hope that we'll be able to pull off virtual events at my company. It was really great hearing from industry experts and getting to meet new people. Prior to this event, I did not believe that it would be possible to leave a virtual conference with the same feeling as if it was a physical one. CMX Global Connect proved me wrong. The event gave me new perspective on creative ways on how I can virtually engage my own communities and audiences beyond simply hosting webinars. Well done. So, like I said, when we were planning, we kept going back to that same mission statement, that same, what are we doing this for? And it always came back to the community and giving them something. So we were really thrilled to see this response, and are really thrilled to see how many folks showed up here to the AMA today. And I think we're ready to dive into some questions. We've been grabbing your questions from the chat and trying to collect them. So we will try to get to as many of them as possible. Perfect. First question, Asia asked, will the slides be sent out? I think so.
100%, yes.
Cool.
And then also kind of on that note, Rebecca said, will you be sharing a list of roles that you had and an example guidelines template? Yes, we're going to be sharing literally our whole event brief that we laid out all of the planning through. And what was really cool about that was we were able post-event to go back to that brief and say, oh, hey, we hit all these goals. We made all these things happen. We were able to do X number out of the entire brief. So we'll be sharing that with you. We can email that out, and it's a template with everything. You can just fill in everything as pertains to your event.
Yeah, and that we actually also included that as a blog post, which will be live on the CMX website. So you'll be able to see it there too. Cool. Marissa, curious if with Hoppin there's an option to not have networking, expo, and sessions visible. We're hoping to do exactly what you guys did in a few months. Cool, for Lego education. So yes, as far as I remember, because when you create the event, you do have the option to select which aspects you want to include. I'm pretty sure you can't, you have to have the stage. And Anne-Marie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the one that you have to have. And then the other ones are optional.
Yep, that's correct.
Perfect.
So I had this one. Oh, sorry, I lost it. So Casey, how did volunteers work? Did they count as admins on your account? What were some of the pitfalls when using Hoppin that you wish you avoided? Did you use any pre-recorded sessions? So for the volunteers, Casey, we sourced some in-house. So we had some from our team. We also reached out to our Connect community. And we also had Sarah from Happily, who provided us with our IT, our backstage manager, and 2 of our MCs. So they were able to all work together. We met with them. We made sure that they knew everything that they had going on. And we were able to just really connect with them and make sure that they had all the information they needed to succeed.
Cool. Michelle asked at the kind of beginning, can you say more about what goes in the script? Anne-Marie, this was when you were talking about creating the agenda, creating the script.
Yeah, so again, in regards to the script, that's what I learned kind of later on. So like Beth mentioned, show day flow. Make sure that you yourself too, as an event organizer, has everything laid out by the minute. When you need to change any links on the back end, which I know someone had a question on that for sponsors, like if you had to change them between being live in their booth versus running their video, you need to make sure that you have that all laid out. You need to make sure that you give your MCs any specific copy that you want them to repeat. For instance, I wanted to make sure everyone was hashtagging and being a part of our photo mosaic wall. And so by making sure that you have all those things listed out and you can easily just pull and grab from your sheet, then you can send that to whoever needs it and just Slack message them, which is what we used. Like I said, we had our HQ on Slack, so that was popping off. But also you can just direct message them on your platform. But however you set that form of communication, just make sure that's consistent too, so you always know, okay, I'm going to go to them, this person in Slack, I'm going to go to this person on the platform, and just have that all in one place.
Cool. There's another question here. There's a couple that are kind of similar, so I'm going to try to group them together. Kate asked, what were the issues that you had? Chandra asked what some of the things that you felt didn't work, or what would you do differently next time? So some of the issues that we had some technical difficulties, I'll just say. I feel like we didn't have a lot of planning issues, but that could just be, because I think we did such a good job. But, we had a couple of moments where a broadcast would stop. If we had some technical issues with people having black screens or needing to refresh the page in order to see what was going on. So I would say those are kind of the issues that we had. I would say, next time, more chat moderators, the more the merrier. Maybe even more IT support, just folks in there helping out if there are audio issues or if people need to be refreshing their page. So that's what I would say we would do differently next time. What we felt worked, and I'll let Anne-Marie answer this as well. We kind of took the if you can dream it, you can do it mindset at the beginning. So, and Anne-Marie, this is a huge testament to you. She was like, what if we had a photo booth? What if we had a DJ? What if we did a whole stage of just puppy videos? What if we had the list went on and it was like, yes, yes, yes. Because we really just wanted to see what's possible in a virtual event. What do people want? What will people watch? And so I think that worked really well. Anne-Marie, do you want to add to that?
Well, I'm just saying that I was just thinking I'm the type of person that when I get an idea in my head, it doesn't go anywhere. And Beth was the one that planted the idea of the photo booth. And so when Snap Fiesta reached back out to me, because I was in communication with them, I was like, hey, let's just go for it. Nothing to lose here. Gene, what do you think about this? And he was like, oh yeah, I want to work too. I want to try new things. As a photo booth, you think okay, you have your camera on, that's where you take your picture. What am I going to do? So you realize you have to selfie, you have to make things work, and you have to upload them into outer space. And so we did that. And lo and behold, we have this great picture. There was so much engagement with that. And it was really cool. And the puppies, don't get me started on the puppies. That was so cute, and it was really fun to see them, and they got a lot of engagement in their booth, so it was pretty awesome.
Puppy booth. Anne-Marie, Jen also asks, with the global image, were we able to moderate the images at all that went into the final thing? You know what, I do need to talk to Snap Fiesta and Gene on that, because our understanding, and Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, the hashtag would pull everything from only the event, but it ended up pulling a lot of our speaker cards and whatnot from the back end, which we did have our speakers post and just kind of use as their own promotion. So I do think that it pulled prior to the actual event date when we were told that it was going to pull from event date. So
I know that you can either just create a new one, but that doesn't really make sense. So I think if Gene were to dig deeper and kind of talk to his people, then he would be able to pull that from moving forward. Okay, so we have a next question from Asia. How did you manage the expo part? It was really well done. So before I learned, Asia, about Hoppin and its full scope of things, I did realize and recognize early on, especially when dealing with sponsors, that the communication of the platform was key. So I had to make sure, like I said, I understood everything on my back end because it was a lot to explain. And before I realized, like, oh, I could create a fake event, or I had to create a fake event to allow them to go into their booths and see everything, I took everyone on Zoom calls. I scheduled like long Zoom calls, and I went over each and every aspect with all the sponsors. And then I had to duplicate the booths in order for them to practice, and like the whole entire event we had to just duplicate in order for anyone to practice and run any sort of rehearsals on. So that on the back end was a total pain, because creating a whole event and then redoing that is a lot of work on the back end. But in the expo, that was another key thing, a must have, what I wanted to learn on how to deal with sponsors. You can engage, they can, if they click interest, then they get all of their leads. So that was a great tool for lead generation, and just making sure that they got all of the leads that they needed. And that's how we did that, was through the expo. And you can run videos through YouTube or Vimeo. But then also on the back end, anytime that they wanted to host live within their booth versus just playing their video, I had to go back in, change out the link, hit refresh, and hope that it worked. So that's what I did on there. But it was cool, and it was fun to have them be a part of the event.
Let's talk about some of the platform questions. So I don't think there's any that are too similar, but I'll just make sure that we try to get to all of them. So this one was, is it possible to not have video split into one or two parts, having video recording delivered in one recording / file? At this time, no. We have our video content guy going through diligently, downloading everything and working on post-production to splice the videos together and get them ready to share. Bethany asks, can you moderate the chat, delete comments, etc.? What about removing users? Yes, yes, yes. As you can see in the event chat right now, you can tag people so that we can have people flag us if there's any sort of harassment or misuse of the session or the platform. Easily remove users, easily delete comments. And then it's just a matter of training the chat moderators to know what to look for and how to act when things happen. I'm just going to keep going through some of these, Anne-Marie, if that's okay.
Please.
Mike Silberg asked, how long would it take to prepare each session? What would be the recommended steps and time estimate for each step? So I assume you're talking about the platform itself. To prepare each session, I would say it was probably 5 or 6 minutes each one. You create the agenda, like the schedule, separately from uploading the speakers, and that's separate from creating a session. So once you have all of those, once you have the schedule and the speakers, then you can create a session because you can pull information from there. And then when you go back to the schedule, you can link the session back into the schedule. So there was a little bit of manual work from the back end, but worth it in the end, I think. And the other one I thought I would just quickly ask, answer is Liz from Teachstone. Does Hoppin give you access to a list of attendees for each session? At this time, no. We are able to have an entire list of everyone who showed up, but we do not have a list for each session attended, or demos or expo booths, or the stage.
Yeah, So I pulled one from Samantha, attendee data. What details did you find most useful, and what would you ask next time to help plan future events? Considering that you're using multiple platforms, Bevy and Hoppin, did you run into any problems exporting? So I'm gonna let Beth take some of that too. But one thing that we were not allowed to get, which was kind of disappointing on the back end too, is that we're not able to see where attendees went, what sessions they specifically went to, and all of that good, juicy info that we as planners, marketers, and everything need to know. So in hindsight, that didn't make things easy for us, but we are moving forward with that. So considering that you're using multiple platforms, Bevy and Hoppin, did you run into exporting problems? No, it was pretty easy on Bevy. It's a great platform. You just download a CSV. I always say CVS, but I noted CSV file, and then you can just upload into Hoppin, and then also vice versa on Hoppin, you can download a CSV and then upload into Bevy. So that was pretty easy, and using those two in tandem, we just wanted to make sure that we captured everything in Bevy, and so that's why we had all of the initial communication and post communication go through our Bevy platform.
Cool. I will just kind of blanket say there's a couple of more specific questions about Hoppin, like the price and stuff. And honestly, that's a conversation you have to have with Hoppin. We worked out contracts with different numbers of events and different people, or different numbers of attendees. So that's a conversation to have with Hoppin. And yeah, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But Emery, maybe we can talk about what other platforms we considered in the beginning when we ended with Hoppin.
Okay, really quickly, I want to touch on this because Grace just asked if sponsors can get leads. Yeah, post-event, Grace, you can export a CSV and you can email that. Another great thing that I really liked too, so anyone who clicked interest, they get all of their information, their entire profile. You can also export chat boxes. You can export the chat box for the stage. It's a bit crazier because it's the entire event chat, but for each session, you can export a chat and you can send that too. So that's another way so that they on the back end can look and see what engagement they had. As far as other platforms, I will just say that our community really came together and we had a one-stop, big, long little laundry list of all the platforms out there. We actually will be sharing that too to you guys, and it shows the platform, the company, the kind of pricing, whatever pricing is out there that people know of, all that good information, any other notes, that is all within this Excel. So you guys will be getting that. And I'm just going to say, like, really take the time, effort, and energy to figure out what you need and go from there. We were looking at, for instance, other platforms. A big one is Crowdcast. They use that a lot. That's being used, but they didn't have a lot of the networking that we needed and the sponsor booths. So that was something that, we really wanted. And so you need to create a script for yourself. You need to figure out what you need, and then you need to go and look. Like, I unfortunately just like coaching you and telling you what to use is not the way to do it, what I've realized. And so figure out exactly how many stages, your layout, like your whole show flow. And then from there, you'll be able to pick and choose based on what each tool offers. And I don't know if all of you guys went to our demo stage, but they had some pretty cool, interesting tools there that we were able to feature and, give people feedback on and whatnot. So that was one of actually my favorite stages to kind of put together.
And just to piggyback off that, we have that blog post going out on the CMX page. And in there, we have a little bit more detail about how to actually like find the right platform. We've got our whole list, a comprehensive list of tools that you can use for virtual events, and kind of how to go through that, deciding your priorities, your must-haves versus your nice-to-haves, and then ultimately deciding what you'd like to go through. So question networking. Ashley asked, have you talked about virtual networking during the pre-planning process? Alimi asked, how did you achieve the happy hour? And Simone asks, does Hoppin have the ability to see attendees via video chat? So kind of to lump all of those into one question, yes, we talked about networking. It was a huge must-have for us when we started this planning process. I don't know the percentage, but I would say that the majority of an event is really about the connecting aspect, is giving people a chance to meet and talk. And so that was really, really important to us to have that baked into the platform. Some of the feedback that we've received about the networking that's built in here is that it's a little abrupt. It was a little nerve-wracking because you didn't know who you were being paired up with, and you didn't really know what was going to happen. So there are some really incredible networking tools out there that, you know, perhaps next time we would look into different ones. We also had a featured networking on Toasty during the event, so people could actually leave and come back. We also had a featured networking on Icebreaker, again, so people could leave and come back. That was that happy hour at the end. We had Icebreaker. But I think that the networking was a huge, huge ask for us. And then Simone, your question about Hoppin having the ability to see attendees via video chat. Yes, so that was through the networking, but we also have the ability in sessions to add people onto the screen. So if a speaker decided to actually include questions from the audience, they could allow people to turn their camera on and have a conversation. We did include that feature in the Birds of a Feather discussion table so that anybody could join and have a conversation with a group. So yes, it is possible.
And then I think I saw one about the happy hour. Beth, did you address that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm keeping track. We've got one from, or we've got a two-part question from Liz again. Do you think anything would be different if it was an event attendees paid for? And how do you differentiate between a virtual conference versus webinars versus a training or workshop? And Marie, do you want to talk about the first one?
Yeah, so technical glitches over here. It's not, but anyway, yes. I'm sorry. I was trying to fix my my chat.
I'm posting questions in the backstage chat.
I know. Oh yeah, you guys, we have backstage chat, but that's what I'm saying. I can't load. It's blank for me. And I just posted some stuff, but it's okay. Okay. I know. It's okay.
Maybe try refreshing your page.
Now I know I'm scared. If I refresh the page, you guys are going to lose me forever and I will be gone from backstage. I would not be coming back. Okay. I'm sorry. You said it was it was from Liz?
Yeah. So do you think anything would be different if it was an event attendees paid for?
Yeah, actually I do. And especially in regards to attendee turnout. But given what Beth said before with our stats, we had 79% of people who RSVP'd attend. And I also saw another question too about the time zones. And one of the things that we did was in order to get the video recordings and all of our post-event materials, you needed to RSVP. So I think that was another drop in kind of attendance. But I mean, honestly though, like I will say this, our community, our attendees, like rock stars, and they came out, they showed up for us. Like we had so much engagement, participation, and we couldn't be any more thankful to have like such a strong community behind us and really come out and like support us and support what we put on. But as far as that, I would say first and foremost, like paid attendees, like that would have been a big draw there for sure.
And then Liz, the second part of that question, how do you differentiate between a virtual conference versus webinars versus a training or a workshop? That's a great question. And I think while I was sitting in the backstage listening to some of the talks last week, that like a lot of people talk about that. So, you know, the difference between a workshop or training is that people can actually taking away something that they've learned. A talk could be something, or a virtual conference versus a webinar is something like a presentation. I think it really just depends on the engagement and how you're planning to do that. I think, and it's funny that we're hosting this kind of webinar today, it was kind of the general consensus last week that webinars are not the way to engage your community. But I believe there's a time and a place for them. So that's why we're hosting this today.
Birdie had a good one.
And then I don't know. And
Birdie.
Oh,
yeah.
Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
Sorry, Beth. Birdie, how many total team members and volunteers did you have running the show at the event? So, Birdie, I kind of went through those roles earlier, and as Beth mentioned, we had 27 awesome volunteers. I, as overall event manager, kind of, you know, on the retrospect, realized that I needed to see more of just the entire picture. I did miss a lot in regards to just how things went in front of house, as I was, you know, sitting a lot behind back of house. So as an event manager and overall, just make sure that you can go anywhere, be plugged in at any time, you know, not having to worry about on the back end switching out links, not having to worry about hosting any part of the event, not having to worry about, you know, going to MC or grab a speaker. So that is key. And I think that just given that, like, it was really helpful to make sure that we had everyone set and in place. And like I said, we'll make sure that we give all of those roles and responsibilities to you guys and get that so you can see what we did.
Cool. Has your backstage chat appeared yet, Anne-Marie?
Birdie, I lost your question. It's tweaking out on me. It's not. Cool. It's glitching.
I've got it all here,
okay.
So I can keep reading the questions so we make sure we get to a lot of them, hopefully all of them. Any lessons learned? Marissa asks, any lessons learned from having a global event with lots of time zones? Was there a setting in Hoppin that would allow for sessions to appear in your browser time zone? Short answer, no. The lessons learned from having a global event, yeah, it definitely proved to be difficult. We did everything in Pacific time just to kind of have that like base, this is the time that we're talking about, but it required people to do their own time zone conversions. Especially in the session stage, we got a lot of feedback that it was confusing for people to know what was live right now. So we manually put in the time zone, but it was Pacific time. So then people had to manually do that time zone conversion. So it was hard, and that is, you know, we hope that that comes in the future for Hoppin, because that was a huge thing for our global community.
Definitely, and recognizing that and making sure they could see everything. And also on the back end too, I don't know if you guys noticed, but for sessions, I had to move everything down. So that didn't automatically happen when the session passed or was done or anything along that lines. I had to go into the back end and push things down after each session and remember to do that. I had another one from Rachel, question from Rachel. Did you use the RTMP or additional production for the main stage or just the backstage and Hoppin? Our stellar DJ Airson, I don't know if you guys saw her bumping some jams, but anyway, she used that link and we had multiple rehearsals with her to make sure that you were able to use it. But what we found out was also on the back end, if you're using that stream key, because she would practice while we were backstage, you can't broadcast, you can't do anything. Using that stream key just overrides everything. And so we kind of learned that. Thankfully, we had the rehearsal to learn that lesson twice. And we realized once we saw that she was practicing and using that everything else kind of just went kaput. So that just overrode the entire system.
Cool. Emily asks, what percentage were first-time event attendees? And I just went to look. So our post-event survey that went out that you all should have taken by now It looks like 58% of our attendees were first time, which is really cool and exciting. We also asked the question if they've attended Summit or CMX Connect, or if it was a virtual Connect. So there's a couple of different answers, but it looks like, yes, about 58 to 60% of people, it was their first CMX event. So that's cool. And then Mike asks, how much time would you estimate for the global event for gathering all the information and coordination before uploading to the platform? Let's call this step 1, and the uploading and adding all the information to the platform, step 2. So does that make sense, Anne-Marie? If we say step 1 is collecting information, step 2 is uploading information.
Yeah.
Do you want to take that one?
That was a process, to say the least. And I honestly don't even know how to split up that time, and I can't really give you a solid answer because like 5 weeks was just a solid blur. But collecting the information from the speakers, like we reviewed all their presentations, we worked with them on their titles, we worked with them on talk topics. Like that was one part. I had to do the exact same thing for sponsors, and setting up their booth. I created forms for them to fill out of exactly what was needed, so it mirrored what I needed to input into the platform. That was a whole nother step. And then, like I said, I ran through each of them on calls. And then I also rebuilt everything and had to upload more pictures and literally set everything like back up. So that was a little, it was very time consuming on that back end for sure.
Katie asks, will you use Hoppin for future events, or would you rather try another platform? This is an analogy that I'm not sure lands, but I'm going to use it anyway. Have you ever attended a wedding that you didn't enjoy? I've been an attendee at a wedding and I was like, wow, I'm not actually having a very good time. But when I looked at the bride and groom, they were having the best time of their lives. And I feel like, isn't that what it's about? Hoppin was a lot of work for Anne-Marie and I on the back, a lot more work than we thought it was going to be. And that being said, though, I think that the attendees had a really good time. And that was because that user experience of Hoppin is just so great. Setting it up was a lot more work than we had hoped for and expected. I would say that we succeeded not because of the platform. We succeeded kind of despite all of that extra work that went into the back end. It's also good to think, you know, Hoppin is super new. This space is evolving so rapidly, and it's really exciting to see what's coming next. So we might use it, we might try something else, but we will cross that bridge when we come to it.
Exactly. Yep.
And then Bethany had a question specifically for you, Anne-Marie, and I think I was paying attention to the chat too much. What was the part where you had to switch out links? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, that was for the expo. So what I had to do with each sponsor is I really encouraged them to be live within their booth. And what live within their booth means like this. If you went to a session, you saw whoever was presenting, they were presenting live. And so I recommended that each of the sponsors do at least 2 sessions, 30 minutes, but they don't have access. They don't have access to do that on the back end. They don't have access to set up their booth. They don't have access to set up anything. That all has to be done through the event organizer. And so that's what I'm saying, in the fact that I had to create everything for them and create this multiple times for them to use and practice. And so each time that they were going to go live within their booth, for example, Koros, I know they hosted raffles, which is a great engagement. They hosted raffles, $200 gift cards, 1 per each session. On the back end, I had to time it, give myself a 5-minute buffer before. So if they were going to be there at 11, had to switch out at 10:55, 10:57, make sure it was linked to a session so that they can go in. I had to set moderators. They had multiple moderators, so I had to manually type in each name and assign them to that session. And then when they were done, I had to go back in on the back end, switch out the session back into their marketing video and refresh to check that it happened. So a lot of the times though, the sponsors would ping me on Slack and say, hey, I'm done, I'm ready. But I'm like, you guys, that's not in my show flow. I had a 5-minute buffer before, a 5-minute buffer after. You can't do this to me right now. You understand that, right? We planned all this out. Like, it's scripted in my mind. But of course, if I was able to, I would do that for them on the back end. And so I think I did pretty well keeping up with that and making sure that they were all set and ready to go. And so I'd have to hop into their booth, make sure that they weren't live streaming, and then go and switch out the link to play their video. Yeah.
We've got only a couple minutes left. I feel like questions are starting to slow down, but I did see one pop up from Mike, another one. How many staff members? Mike, you're looking at them. This was very much a 2-woman team. We did have the support from the rest of the organization with a lot of like, I'll just mute you for a second, Anne-Marie. We did have a lot of support from the organization, but it was the hard work of our 2 selves that brought you the event you saw. And Anne-Marie, now that your dog stopped barking, cool. I think that does it.
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys. Really appreciated you taking the time today with us and chat. We will be sending you guys all of these slides, the brief, and we'll make sure we get that Excel out for you so you can, start building your own script and seeing what works for you, because that's just honestly the best advice that we can give you right now.
Cool. I have a mental note of what we're going to include in the email after this. So everybody who attended and checked in into Hoppin here, we'll make sure that we send you exactly that list of what Anne-Marie just talked about. And yeah, I hope that this was helpful and that you're not sick of just listening to us talk. This will be the last time you see this office for a while. So say goodbye to the plants and Anne-Marie's teddy bear. That's it. Thank you and good night.
Thanks, guys.